as part of the spectator experience here at Circuit of the Americas, as part of the SRO Motorsports America weekend, the introduction of GT1 Sports Club, powered by Curbstone, an on-track display of some of the most spectacular supercars and hypercars on the planet. These are rare machines. They are incredibly fast examples of engineering and design, and we got to listen to some of the great engine notes supplied by V12s, V10s, V8s, and everything else in between this morning, and then once again here in just a moment. I'm Kyle Heyer. I'll be joined by DJ Clark a bit later in the session. And we are getting some great looks around the racetrack at some of the fantastic looking race cars and supercars and hypercars that are part of this example. Lamborghini on track right now as they work their way through the carousel section and head back around. And Aventador SV now working its way through the carousel, head back towards turn 19. And again, some of the greatest names in hypercars. We've had Pagani's on track, Koenigsegg's, McLaren's. Of course, yesterday we saw Jaguar XJ220. But, of course, Lamborghini, all about the drama of the sounds and the sights, the aggression in these cars. Headlights like lightning bolts as the SVJ works its way now through turn 20 and up onto the front straightaway. And there is a great look at the McLaren Senna. We talked a lot about this car yesterday. A no compromises performance track machine, active aero on this car. And of course, this machine is incredibly unique. Of course, named after one of the all-time greats in racing, bi-turbo V8 behind the driver. And one of my favorite sounds in hypercars and sports cars is the McLaren bi-turbo V8 that powers a lot of similar cars from the McLaren stable. But of course, this car really the no compromises example of track design and function over form in some instances, but still retaining a beautiful form. Down towards turn 12, and again, the sounds of these cars just absolutely unbelievable. The wing tilts up on entry to spoil the air, act like an air brake, like a fighter jet almost, and then it lays back flat again to produce less drag and more downforce up the straightaway. And the flyby on the back straightaway. This has been a fun camera to listen to for that McLaren up the stretch and approaching speeds north of 150 to 160 miles an hour. Of course, not quite touching the top speed of that McLaren Senna, which is a good bit faster, about 50 miles an hour more if it had straightaway to run on. And again, listen to the sound of this McLaren as it navigates the stadium section. And up into turn 15 now. Getting through the gears. And let's have a listen to the noise of this car as well. That bi-turbo V8 making some great symphonies on track here at Circuit of the Americas. Senna navigating the S's here at Circuit of the Americas, and I'm joined now by DJ Clark, who was with me this morning. Will be with me for one more session of GT1 Sports Club this afternoon. DJ, we've gotten to listen and look at some of the greatest hypercars and supercars on the planet. We talked a lot about this Senna yesterday and all the technology that is on display here, that active aero rear wing. It truly is a marvel of engineering, isn't it?
Yeah, it really and truly is. And when we talk about this Senna, the thing that I love most about this car is we talked a little bit about some of the cars this morning that were built from the outside in, and this really and truly was. They started this car with the thought of the the aerodynamics, how it was going to work, how it was going to be able to achieve better lap times. And so it used the lightest weight design it could. It used the most aerodynamic designs that it could, and really and truly did absolutely everything in its power to maximize lap time. This is a car that has one purpose and one purpose only. It's not to look good, it's not to sound good, it is to go fast.
It does also look good and sound good.
I mean, it does. Those are just secondary.
Yeah, they you know, it's really a great compliment to your car manufacturer if your thought wasn't necessarily to make it beautiful, but it just ends up as a side effect because you've designed it to be an uncompromised performance vehicle. But here it is, and looking the way it does. And it's not just because it needed to look good, it's because it needed to go fast, and all those things combined together, you get a McLaren Senna. Lamborghini Huracan STO, these cars have gotten plenty of laps here this weekend, haven't they? These owners getting after it, really enjoying tracking the Lamborghini around Circuit of the Americas. It's something we've seen before in SRO Motorsports Group. Of course, these are not the GT3 variants that we would see competing in a series like Fanatec GT World Challenge, but they are, of course, road-going variants that are as much fun and as much drama on the road.
Yeah, they really are. And what's special about the STO individual is the fact that it is kind of worked a little bit backwards. The Super Trofeo homologation of the cars, these were designed as an homage and a way to look like those cars and to act like those cars. So they built the base level Lamborghini Huracan, and then that was sort of adapted into the Super Trofeo car that we see out on the track nowadays. And then Lamborghini just liked it so much that they said, well, okay, we're going to make a track version of the Super Trofeo car that's available to the everyday person.
And this is one of the cars we listened to this morning, the soundtrack of that naturally aspirated V10, an engine that Lamborghini has in a handful of different configurations of this car, and it makes a whole bunch of power and a whole bunch of torque, but all the drama is what it's all about. I mentioned they had an Aventador SVJ out there earlier. The headlights like lightning bolts, everything's aggressive and sharp and angled and purposeful on Lamborghinis, and the Huracan STO is just another great example of that. Down the back stretch here, DJ, top speeds well up towards 200 miles an hour. Probably not quite approaching it here on the 6/10 of a mile straightaway that is the run from 11 to 12 at COTA, but deep into triple digits probably that time through.
Oh, without question, without question. And you know, one of the things that I do really love about these cars is that they do have some very, very interesting things that were done. And normally when we think about Lamborghinis, we do think about that four-wheel drive, that is kind of one of the things that is very intrinsic to Lamborghinis. Well, this is a rear-wheel drive car, again, basing it off of that road-going GT3 or track-going GT3 model, building it backwards from that, as GT3 only allows for rear-wheel drive in its homologation.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. A lot of Lamborghinis have that all-wheel drive or the four-wheel drive system, but here, exploring the edges of the track limits there as well with the rumble strips. Again, the rear-wheel drive variant, of course, as inspired by the race-going version. So great point there, that this is slightly different from other Lamborghinis you might see, and climbing up onto the front straightaway under the Fanatec banners. And the straightaways are really where this car is going to shine, but of course the big rear wing on the back of that car is more than just for looks. It'll provide some downforce, and effectively, the way I like to think about this, the way I explain it for those that have never really thought about the way air flows over those, when you're at the airport, you know, you got the wings on your airplane, take you up in the air. If you take the same airfoil shape, turn it upside down and bolt it to the back of a Lamborghini, you stick the car to the ground the faster you go. And that's, you know, a simple concept that these manufacturers have extrapolated to the extreme on various cars here in this entry list, like the Pagani Huayra, the Apollo IE we talked about this morning. They take the aerodynamics to the extreme, and the understanding and engineering behind it is so much more complex than we could explain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you are talking about CFD and wind tunnel designs and all of these things to make these cars really come alive. The amount of engineering and design behind them, every little bit of the car is absolutely sculpted. It is thought out. It is planned. It is all done to extract the most aerodynamic efficiency from the car, and it really does. It's kind of one of those things that you mentioned earlier. It starts to go hand in hand, that a lot of these cars they become beautiful because of that, because of the way they look, that aerodynamic shape is just kind of naturally aesthetically pleasing.
It's like a teardrop or a raindrop. It's got that smooth gradient from the nose of the car over the top of the cockpit and then sweeping down to the rear of the car. And over the years, manufacturers have employed different tricks learned from racing to make the underbody of the car as efficient as the top of it with diffusers and splitters and things of the sort. And here's a car that I absolutely love, La Ferrari Aperta, the open top configuration of La Ferrari. And of course, this yellow color, striking indeed, and this owner has been putting this thing through the paces. This is Benjamin Sloss behind the wheel of this car, DJ, and this car is absolutely rocketing around here. And this V12 engine under the rear glass, paired with an electric motor, it makes some unbelievable sounds.
Yeah, it really and truly does. And once again, we mentioned this before, La Ferrari, thusly named because it was meant to be the definitive Ferrari, and I love this. Every time we see it coming down into the braking zone as it goes, just beautiful, beautiful car.
And of course, this V12 under the rear glass of this Ferrari. Let's have a listen to the sound of this V12. The sound of La Ferrari V12 past that camera on the back straightaway, there's almost nothing like it. Of course, we heard something a little like it earlier this morning with the Apollo IE with a fairly similar engine bolted to its drivetrain, but there is an appeal to this car that I think transcends time. And the other thing to note is that this car is hustling out there as well. Of course, this is the open-top variant that, we talked about the compromise of performance and luxury and experience, but I think this car, you find it as the definitive Ferrari, but that open top, I think, is a big part of this as well. Experiencing the sensation of speed and wind and sound and all of that visceral experience you get with that open top, that's what this car is all about.
It really is, and it's about being able to soak it all in and enjoy all of it, and with that open top, it just adds to that sensory experience that you're getting. The wind through your hair, it's absolutely something special, and that's what strikes me about all these cars, including this KTM Crossbow, the GT2 variant that we're seeing out on track. With the clamshell design, I was walking past it earlier and watching a bunch of fans just kind of marvel at the way to get in and out of the car. These are all special cars. There's something that makes each of them worthy of that designation.
And this is a GT2 class car, which is able to run in the GT America powered by AWS series here in North America. And a car like it has run on course with us as recently as the Indianapolis event weekend last October. So it is a car that is homologated for racing here in the SRO Motorsports Group, and this car powered by a Audi-sourced 5-cylinder engine, which makes it a pretty interesting combination of parts and speed. But again, that clamshell design allowing for those wide sills, almost prototype-like, right? It'd be very difficult to build a door when the window and the face of the door are about 2 feet and 2.5 feet apart. So that's why the whole nose of the car opens up and allows the driver to climb behind the wheel. Yeah,
exactly. It's very, very as they go, and just beautiful. And you see once again the aerodynamics under the car and that splitter and how that it takes that air in, and yes, that is used for engine cooling obviously, but then the strakes on the side of the car, again, just building that aesthetically pleasing look. It's very, very good.
Yeah, very sleek, low slung, low center of gravity. Everything about this car is low. And up onto the front straightaway again, powering up to speeds that are capable well north of 160, 170 miles an hour. And as part of the GT2 category, the SRO Motorsports Group, again, cars are typically 700 plus horsepower, but they don't have quite the amount of downforce that you would see with a GT3, and it goes for a spin and keeps it out of the Armco, thank goodness there. But a lot of power in that car. We were just talking about 700 plus, even with the Pirelli P0s there to lighten them up, leaving turn number 1.
Yeah, and hopefully that car will be able to get back and on its way here. As you said, didn't make contact with anything, so thankfully for that. Speaking of cars hustling, LaFerrari doing a little bit of hustling down through turn 20.
Yeah, this driver has been getting the most out of his LaFerrari at the moment, heading up towards turn 1. Again, that open top experience, all part of it. I love the paint color on this too. When you think about Ferraris, DJ, of course, the red color comes to mind, but doesn't yellow come up almost as much in your mind as far as Ferraris are concerned? Of course, we've got a Ferrari joining us again in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Series this weekend that has that familiar Ferrari red and a color yellow very similar to this.
Yes, it does, and I think it certainly is a little bit of a wave out the mirror there. I love that, as they know they're being filmed a little bit, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you think of the two colors that a Ferrari should be. It should be red and it should be yellow. And that is just the way things are meant to be.
Yeah, there are some cars, like when Henry Ford had the Model T, you can have any color so long as it's black.
Yep.
it's almost I'm sure there are other great colors that Ferrari makes, but for me, it's got to be red or yellow. And it's in the same vein, right? Those Lamborghinis we were showing earlier, the Huracan STOs, that kind of green that I associate with Lamborghini in many instances. So, there are just some cars that have to come in certain colors.
Well, and I know there are specific names for that lime green, as we see the KTM Crossbow back out on track, so good to see that.
In a similar vein for KTM, orange is kind of their, just like McLaren, they've got their papaya. So it's always fun to discuss the names of the colors of the cars, and paint colors are often named in pretty fun ways too, especially cars that are of sports car derivation or hypercars or supercars that have color names that are associated with racetracks, which I think is really neat. I know that there are Chevrolets and Hondas that have had racetrack-inspired names. Of course, Toyota's got a track red color on their GR86s as well. So that's all part of the fun here. If you're trying to find out what the green is called.
I am. And I can do this because it's not so challenging of Italian that I can actually say it. It's Rosa Corsa, and that's the name
for the Lamborghini.
For Ferrari Red.
Oh, Ferrari. Okay,
Ferrari
sorry,
Red, Rosa
I'm not
Corsa.
thinking.
And then Verde Mantis is the correct color for that sort of lime green Lamborghini. I knew there were specific names for it.
So I see a black flag waving there on the left, which in the world of on-track action means that cars shall return to the pit lane, and the cars are now working their way around the stadium section. Ferrari Aperta getting set to return to the paddock here, and on track for fans to see. There's another session of this later in the afternoon that race fans can stand trackside and listen and watch. And of course, it's all part of the paddock experience as well. These cars under a big tent here as as part of the spectacle, DJ. There's lots to see and do at this Circuit of the Americas weekend because Austin, Texas has sort of become the American home for the SRO America Group. And with all the activations happening, the introduction of GT1 Sports Club, it has been a fan favorite place. It's been busy under that tent every time I've walked by it.
Yeah, it's been great to see all of the fans coming out and taking part in all of these absolutely stunning cars. It's really and truly what we love to bring. It is just the love of motorsports and the love of automobiles.
Yeah, and they're going to bring those cars back to pit lane, cool them off, and get set for an afternoon session perhaps. Of all the dramatic cars that we've seen, of course, this morning, we saw the Apollo IE, a couple Paganis, and Koenigsegg's floating around as well in that that tent area. The Jaguar XJ220 we saw yesterday. A lot of stories about that. But that's going to do it for this GT1 Sports Club session. Of course, we have one more of these left this afternoon for GT1 Sports Club, hypercars, supercars, and everything in between. On track, on display for race fans here in Austin's Circuit of the Americas. We'll see you next time.